My name is Loretta Hayes, and I'm from Hayes Sewing Machine Company, and welcome back to our creative videos. And we're super excited today. We're going to do a new die that is from Accuquilt. So the new die is the small bowl cozy. So fabulous die. We've had the large bowl cozy for a while now. And what's wonderful is you can use the small bowl cozy in both the electric big and then also the go big, which is what I'm going to be using today as my demonstration. So what is a bowl cozy? A bowl cozy goes into your microwave. You place your bowl with your food in it. It will go into your microwave, and then when you go to take it out of your microwave, you are not burning your fingers on the edges of your bowl. It's also terrific, if you're like carrying it and you're going to watch it in front of the TV or whatnot. So you're not having to grab a towel or, a pot holder, that kind of thing. So it has a little shaping to the bowl, and then the corners become your handles. The most important thing about a bowl cozy is you need to be doing everything with cotton materials. So it's going to go into your microwave. If we have a polyester, and certainly if we have anything metallic like some of the insulated battings and that kind of thing, it will spark or melt in your microwave. So what I've done is I've got my two different cotton fabrics. So I've got a grunge, and then I thought I would do this cute little bread fabric. It just seemed appropriate on there. But there's tons of fabrics that you could do. I mean, it could just be decorative fabric, but like we have here at the store probably 25 or 30 food fabrics. So like you could do it with chocolate covered strawberries, that kind of stuff. All right, so you have your two cotton fabrics. Then we need to have our batting. And the batting that they recommend is the Wrap and Zap batting. It is 100% cotton. It is designed to go in the microwave. So what happens with this, so if you're doing a bowl cozy, but you might also be doing a baked potato zapper. And in fact, they actually have a little pattern for the directions for doing a baked potato zapper on the back of the packaging. There's no scrim in this batting, so there's nothing that's going to melt. So our batting, so I have two squares of my Wrap and Zap. The other thing that is definitely useful to have is you want to have a heavy needle. So what I've put in my machine is a size 116 denim needle. You don't really need that heavy a needle in the total construction of the design, of the project. But when you get to that last step where we're going to be top stitching around the edge, it is super important to have a heavy needle in because you're going to be going through some bulk. And I'm going to show you some tricks on how to minimize some of that bulk as well. On our thread, I have a Metler 50 weight silk finish cotton thread. So once again, not anything polyester. So I think we are all set. We'll set our bowl off to the side here. Something for you to know when you get the die out of the package, right down here at the bottom, over here on this side, it tells you where you can do a free download. And so if you would like a step-by-step how to do this project with pictures, you can go ahead and download that from Accuquilt's website. So we'll tuck these off to the side here, and let's go about cutting it out. So for this particular small bowl cozy, everything is going to be cut 9.5-inch square. So we're going to have our two pieces of cotton fabric that are 9.5-inch square, and we're just going to go ahead and overlap them. I usually put mine right sides together because that's what I'm going to be sewing, but the die is so accurate that you could really put it any way. It wouldn't make any difference. So we're going to take our die, and you can see on the die almost looks like a little bit of a flower type of effect. And so we're going to tuck our fabric onto that. You're going to place your fabric at a slight angle. We're just trying to cover. You can see how the die has kind of a two-tone. So the dark is in that center section there, and so I just want to make sure I'm covered on all of my edges. For Accuquilt cutting, once you've got your die cut, your die covered, you're then going to take and you're going to place your mat over top of it. So it's kind of a reverse rotary cutting, you know, where if you're a quilter, you have the rotary mat on the bottom, fabric, and then your cutter. In Accuquilt, you've got the cutter on the bottom, fabric, and then your mat. All right, so we're going to just kind of wiggle over here to our Accuquilt cutter. This is the Accuquilt Go, so this is a cranking one. And this is really the reason why this die was developed, because the large bowl cozy will not fit through this die. And so I guess they had a ton of requests for something smaller that you could run through on this one. So whenever you're doing your Accuquilt cutting, you're going to push your die up against the roller, and then you're going to go ahead and proceed to roll. And what's nice, you know, you'd think it would be like really hard to roll it, but it literally just rolls through super easily. I usually give my mat a little bit of a rub to get the static out. You can pull the mat off, and then you can cut, and look at how cool that is. We've got our pieces cut in our shape. So we'll go ahead and tuck those off to the side. And then our next thing that we're going to do is cut our batting. And so once again, we need to have 2 layers, because remember, you're going to put your hand under this hot bowl. We want it to be protective. And this is the Wrap and Zap. And so once again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to overlap it, just making sure that I've got everybody covered. And then we're going to go ahead and cover our batting with our mat. And so once again, we can come in. And with the Go cutter, you can go both directions. I'm left-handed, so I tend to crank with my left hand. But if you're right-handed, you could go the opposite way. So once again, give it a quick rub. You can slide it off. And then we will take the pieces off, and we have our batting cut. And so we are now done with our cutter. So we're just going to fold this up super quick. Set it off to the side. And we are ready to go for our stitching. So the bowl is made in halves. So we're going to take 1 piece of cotton and 1 piece of batting, and there's no right and wrong on the batting side. And we're going to just overlap and get our pieces lined up. So we'll do the same thing with the grunge. Now with the grunge fabric is awesome because it's a twofer, right? You have a pretty grungy side, and then you have a pretty solid. So decide which is going to be your right side. So I'm going to do the grungy side. So we're going to place that down, and we're going to lay our batting on top. So in both cases, the batting is on the wrong side of the fabric. All right. So we're now going to take it, and we're going to sew 2 of our darts. So we'll come in, fold our piece in half. The batting is going to be on the outside, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch dart down on both sides. So we'll line up. I've got my 1D foot on for my Bernina 590, so I have my dual feed engaged. If your machine doesn't have dual feed, it's totally not a problem. What I might put on is the walking foot, because it's going to help, you know, just like quilting, we're sewing through batting here, that dual action of being able to grab the fabric on both sides is very helpful. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this on my 1/4 inch line, and I'm on a regular straight stitch 2.5 inch stitch length. And so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll get down to the bottom, and I will go ahead and do a little back tack And then we'll cut our thread and we'll flip it around and do the same on the other side. So once again, 1/4 inch. When we come to the bottom of the point, and I always sew from the loose end of the point down to the V part of the point. So we've got those done. We're now going to take and do exactly the same thing to the second one. So we'll go ahead and fold that in half. Do our little back tack. And so we have our 2 darts sewed on the sides. So we're now going to take it and we're going to open it up and we're going to fold it in half again so that we can sew the second set of darts. What I found when I was sewing the second set of darts is it was super helpful to put your finger in on the bottom part of the dart. You're no longer working with flat fabric. It has a little bit of dimension. And so if we're going to get a tuck, it's going to be right at the bottom of that dart. So what I did, you can see how when I fold it, it kind of does a little lump there. So if I stick my finger in there and just make sure everybody's flat, and then go ahead and fold and stitch. And honestly, these darts are not very long, so I didn't even bother to clip it or pin them. Super, super easy to do. So when we open it up, you can see we now have got our dimension for our bowl. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the grunge. One more time, get your finger in there, make sure it's nice and flat. All right, so we now have both sides of our bowl ready to go. Now, in the directions at this point, they basically say, okay, we're going to put the bowls together. But what I found was not on this step and not on the sewing around the step, but when we do that final step for the working with the top stitching, this area got very, very bulky. So my suggestion is that you grab a pair of sharp pointy scissors and you just go ahead and trim a little bit of your batting out of the dart. So these are double curved embroidery scissors, so you're not really going to nick your fabric. But just by getting rid of some of that extra batting, it made the top stitching so much easier to do. And it really didn't take very long to do. So we'll come in. And I'm not trimming the entire dart. I'm just trimming the top where when we're top stitching, we'll be stitching through that area. All right, so that's that one. And we'll set it off to the side and we'll do the other. So you should have 8 pieces of each. Now, once I've got that done, I'm going to head up onto the ironing board, and I'm just going to take and I'm going to press those darts open. So once again, this is just to help with bulk when we do that top stitching. So what I did is I made sure that my bowl was I had the batting on the inside. And so we can come in and press that. And once again, I'm not really pressing the whole dart. I'm just really pressing that top so that we're minimizing bulk. All right, so that's one. We'll flip our bowl around again so that the batting is to the inside, and we'll open up and we'll press the grunge darts. And what's kind of interesting about this bowl is there isn't really a lining and an outside, because you can flip this bowl. Once it's done, you can flip it either way. So originally I was thinking that I would have the grunge in the inside and the bread on the outside, but I kind of like the bread on the top for visibility there. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take and put one bowl so that the pretty fabric is facing out, and we're going to take one bowl where the pretty fabric is facing in, so right sides together, and now we are going to clip it. So we're going to come in, I'm going to put a clip at the top, I'm going to put a clip where the connection point is with the darts, and we're going to work our way around. Alrighty. So we have got our 8 clips around our edges. So now we're going to start stitching, and really we're going to treat this as if it was a pillowcase. So we need to have an opening, and it's always going to be easier for us to have an opening on a side rather than on a corner. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing here, and I'll stitch all the way around, and then I'll stop over here on the side. So we'll come in, and we're going to do once again our 1/4 inch seam. Make sure your clips aren't in the way. Might be worthwhile doing a little back tack. And we're just going to stitch our way around. So now we're coming to where our dart is. So I'm going to basically come to the seam of the dart. I'll pick up the foot and do just the tiniest little pivot, and then go ahead and start stitching again. So once again, around to the dart, pick up our foot, just pivot around just the slightest little bit. And we're coming around to our last side. So when I come in, I want to have about a 2 to 3 inch opening so I can flip this bowl easily. Don't forget to do your little back tack so you're not pulling that out. And so we're going to come in and we're going to start to flip. I found before I flipped that if I did 2 little clips, one on each side of the dart, that it folded over and flipped really nicely. So about a 1/4 inch on either side of the dart. The only one I didn't clip was the one that I am going to be sewing closed. All right, so here we go. We're birthing our bowl cozy. And so this is the reason why you don't want to go too small on the opening, because I've got like a 3 inch opening and it's a little bit of a tug and pull to go through. All right. So we'll flip it around. You can take your point turner and just do a nice gentle kind of poke out on those curves. So get your fingers in there, get the point of it flipped, and then go in and do the finish up with your point turner. All right, so we are looking really, really nice. Okay, so I do a little bit of finger around the top. I'm going to hop over to the ironing board and we're going to press these edges in about a 1/4 inch, just the same as our seam allowance, and then we're going to go ahead and clip those, and then we will go ahead and do our top stitching. Okay. So we'll go ahead and press. All right, so now we're coming around to our edge where we need to flip it. So I'm going to press one edge at a time. I'm going to try and keep that dart open. We're going to press that, and we're going to press about a 1/4 inch in. And then I'll flip it over, and I'll do the same thing on this one. And once again, make sure that that little dart gets opened up, because that'll minimize the bulk. And we'll come in and we'll press that. Okay, and now we're heading back to the machine, and we're going to do a little bit of clipping. So I'm going to put a little clip there at where the darts come together. And I'll put a little one on the opening here, and we'll do the same thing over on this side. So usually about 3 clips is enough to make sure everybody's good. So I don't want to start exactly where I'm doing this opening here. So I'm going to hop to the other side, to the dart on the other side, and we're going to be sewing a little less than a 1/4 inch. So we'll go ahead and land on our dart here. This is where all of that extra time of trimming out the darts and pressing the darts is going to pay off, because these are the intersections that are quite thick. Now, when you go to take off and do the sewing, up to this point, we've been doing a 2.5 inch stitch length. So what we're going to do, we're going through quite a bit of thickness. We're going to go ahead and we're going to increase it to 3.5. What that does is it makes it so that we have more thread to go up and down through the thickness of our fabric. And our stitches don't appear like teeny tiny little baby stitches. So we'll go ahead and just start stitching our way around. Go around our curve. Slow down a little bit as you go through your bulky area, but not like, you know, if you feel like you really need to, you could hand turn it, but if your machine is pretty good about going through thickness, just going through slow is just fine. So we're coming around. All right, so now we're coming to where our clips are. So we'll get rid of our first clip. Okay, the clip is to the presser foot, so we'll go ahead and we'll pull the second one. And then our third clip. Just make sure everybody's tucked in. What I love about this is just by doing the top stitching here, we don't have to do any handwork to finish up the opening. And our last side. And I'll do a little back tack, just a small one, just to secure that. And so there we go. Trim up our threads. And our bowl cozy is complete. And so we can have it with the grunge on the inside, or if you flip it around, you can have it with the bread on the inside. Now, this is a smaller bread cozy. Not bread cozy, bowl cozy. It's bread fabric. So it is not something that you necessarily have to quilt. In the directions, they give you suggestions if you want to quilt it. So if we look at the first page of the directions of the pattern, you can see that they have you stitching through the batting and the fabric where you just do an X, and they just did a little straight stitch. Now for my sample, I was like, oh, that's cute, I like that, but I was like, ooh, how about doing something a little more decorative? So this is a serpentine stitch. The width on it is 5 millimeters, and the length on it is 3 millimeters. And so everybody, even if your machine doesn't have a ton of decorative stitches, everybody will have a stitch like this. If you've got like 5 stitches on your machine, you have a zigzag that like does 3 little stitches as it goes across. So this can be pointy. This one is a little more serpentine because of the stitch. So if you decide that you want to do that, then what you're going to do is on your fabric, not on the die, I'm just demonstrating on the die, you're going to take a ruler and you're going to just make a mark with a chalk marker. Okay, and then we'll flip it around and we'll make the mark there. And so I would do my quilting as the very first step so that you've got that together. So if you see yourself, you know, oh, I'm going to throw this in the wash a zillion times, then go ahead and quilt it. But really, with the size of this one, it isn't necessary to do the quilting. So I hope you enjoyed this project. It's super, super quick. It would make great gifts for doing the different bowls. I thought it would be cute to maybe do like a set of 4, maybe different fabrics on there. You need a third of a yard because you're cutting 9.5-inch squares. So if you do a third and a half of a yard, you will get 4 squares going across the fabric. So if you get 2 1/3, 1/3 of the bread fabric, 1/3 of the grunge, you have enough fabric to do a set of 4 just in that. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you next time.